My daughter-in-law stood in my kitchen, arms crossed, wearing that expression she always wore when she was about to deliver what she considered a reasonable demand. "You need to start paying rent, Harold. $3,000 a month, utilities included. We can't keep subsidizing your retirement forever." Subsidizing. That was the word she used, as if I were some kind of government program draining their resources. My son stood behind her, scrolling through his phone, pretending to be somewhere else. He was good at that. Had been for years. I looked around the kitchen, the one in the house I'd signed over to them 18 months ago when my son said they were struggling with the mortgage, the house where my wife Margaret and I had raised our children, where I'd installed these same cabinets with my own hands back in 1992, where Margaret had taught our daughter Lisa to bake butter tarts every Christmas until the accident took her from us. I smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one. The kind that comes when you finally understand something clearly. "How much did you say?" I asked. $3,000. Stephanie's eyes narrowed, suspicious of my calm. "That's actually below market rate for this neighborhood. You're getting a deal." "That does seem reasonable," I said quietly. "When would you need me to start?" My son finally looked up from his phone. "Wait, you're agreeing?" "Your wife makes a fair point," I said. "I've been here almost 2 years now. It's only right I contribute." Stephanie smiled, victorious. "Good. First payment is due on the 1st. And Harold, we're converting the basement into a home theater. If you have anything down there, you should move it out by the weekend." The basement, where I'd built a wooden rocking horse for Lisa when she was 3. Where Margaret and I had spent countless Saturday mornings refinishing antique furniture we'd found at estate sales. Where her sewing machine still sat in the corner, untouched since the cancer took her. "I'll take care of it," I said. That evening, I made a single phone call. Mr. Mitchell. The voice on the other end was warm, familiar. "It's been too long, sir." "Hello, Douglas. I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Never. What can I do for you?" "The apartment at the lake house. Is it still available?" There was a pause. "The carriage house suite? Of course. We've kept it ready, just as you asked." "But, sir, are you certain?" "Plans change," I said. "I'll need it by the weekend. Can you send someone with the truck?" "Consider it done." Should I call Gerald as well? Gerald Henderson had been my operations manager for 30 years before I promoted him to CEO. He still called me once a month, though I'd asked him to stop. "No," I said. "This is personal, just between us for now." "Understood, sir. I'll have Marcus pick you up Saturday morning. 8 o'clock? That would be fine." I hung up and sat in the darkness of my room, listening to my son and daughter-in-law laughing at something on television downstairs. They had no idea. And perhaps that was my fault. When I retired 5 years ago, just after Margaret's diagnosis, I'd wanted to step away from everything. The business I'd built from nothing, the properties, the investments, all of it had meant something when I was building it with her. Without her, it just felt like noise. My son had never shown interest in Mitchell Freight Lines. He'd gone to Queens for business, then moved to Toronto to work in finance. He'd met Stephanie there, a marketing executive with expensive taste and bigger ambitions. When Margaret got sick, they'd visited twice, once at the beginning, once at the end. After the funeral, they'd suggested I move in with them. "The house is too big for one person, Dad," my son had said. "You shouldn't be alone." I'd believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe that my son still needed me for something other than what I could provide. On Thursday evening, my son came to my room while I was packing. He watched me fold shirts into a suitcase, his face a mixture of confusion and something that might have been guilt. "Dad, Stephanie and I were talking. Maybe 3,000 is too steep. We could do 2,500. "That's generous of her," I said. "So you'll stay?" I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become this person? The boy who used to ride in my truck on weekends, who begged me to teach him to drive the big rigs, who once told me he wanted to be just like me when he grew up. Where had that boy gone? "No," I said. "I don't think I will." His face reddened. "Come on, Dad. Where are you going to go? You're 68 years old. Your pension from the trucking company can't be much. Do you want to end up in some government home?" "I'll manage." This is crazy. You're being stubborn. Your mother said something to me before she died, I said quietly. She said, "Don't let anyone make you feel small, Harold. Not even family." I didn't understand it then. I think I do now. That's not fair. We're trying to help you. Are you? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're trying to help yourselves. Jesus, Dad. We let you live here for 2 years without paying a cent. You let me live in my own house, I said. The house I gave you because you said you couldn't make the payments. The house your mother and I bought in 1985 with money we saved for 10 years. That house, his mouth opened and closed. You said it was a gift, he finally managed. It was, I said. I'm not taking it back. I just want you to remember what it cost me. Saturday morning at 8 o'clock sharp, I heard the vehicle pull into the driveway. Through the window, I saw the black Cadillac Escalade, freshly washed, idling at the curb. Marcus got out wearing his usual navy blazer. He'd driven for me for 15 years, back when I still attended board meetings and industry conferences. Stephanie was in the kitchen making her morning smoothie. She glanced out the window and raised an eyebrow. That's quite the ride to the senior's residence. Something like that? I said. She shrugged, uninterested. Make sure you take everything. We're tearing down the wall between your room and the office next week. Kevin needs a proper workspace. Already thought of, I see. No point wasting space. My son came downstairs in his robe, coffee in hand. Dad, you really don't have to do this. We can figure something out. It's already figured out, I said. Marcus came to the door. When Stephanie opened it, she looked him up and down with that calculating expression she wore when determining someone's net worth. Good morning, he said. I'm here for Mr. Mitchell. He's ready, Stephanie said, already turning back to her smoothie. Kevin, remember we have brunch with the Hendersons at 11. Marcus took my suitcase and the 3 boxes I'd packed. That was everything. I'd already arranged for Margaret's things, the items I couldn't part with, to be shipped separately to the lake house. This is really it? My son stood on the porch, hands shoved in his robe pockets. You're just leaving? You asked me to contribute or find somewhere else. I'm finding somewhere else. But where? You can't afford anything decent. Not in this economy. I'll manage, I said for the 3rd time. Marcus held the door open. I slid into the back seat. Through the window, I could see my son standing there, confusion, and perhaps the first stirring of concern crossing his face. Stephanie had already disappeared back inside. Where to, Mr. Mitchell? Marcus asked, pulling smoothly away from the curb. Home, I said. Take me home. We drove west out of Edmonton, past the shopping centers and suburbs, onto the Yellowhead Highway. The city fell away behind us, replaced by the endless Alberta prairie, golden with late autumn wheat. We drove for 4 hours, through the foothills, into the mountains, past Jasper, and finally south toward the Okanagan. Margaret had loved this drive. We'd made it dozens of times over the years, usually in early October when the leaves were turning and the tourist crowds had thinned. She used to make me stop at every lookout point so she could photograph the mountains. We arrived at the property in the late afternoon. The gate was open, the stone pillars flanking the private road marking the entrance to the estate. The sign beside it, discreet bronze lettering, read Mitchell Lodge. The main house came into view first, a timber frame structure we'd built in 2008, all natural wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Okanagan Lake. It had been our dream, the place we'd designed together, the retreat where we'd spend our retirement years. We'd used it for 3 summers before she got sick. Behind the main house, nestled among the pines, sat the carriage house. We'd converted it to a guest suite years ago, originally for Lisa and her family. That future never came. The property stretched for 40 acres along the lakefront, private beach, boat dock, hiking trails through old-growth forest. Margaret used to joke that it was our own little country. Marcus pulled up to the carriage house. Douglas was waiting on the porch, the property manager who'd looked after the estate for the past 8 years. He was in his 60s himself, a former contractor who'd built half the custom homes in the valley. "Welcome home, Mr. Mitchell," he said. "Everything's ready." Margaret, his wife, she left a casserole in the refrigerator. Beef stew. She remembered it was your favorite. Douglas's wife, Margaret. The same name as my own. A small coincidence that had made my Margaret smile every time we visited. Thank you, Douglas. For everything. He nodded, understanding more than I'd said. It's good to have you back, sir. The place has been too quiet. That first week, I didn't contact my son. I walked the property every morning, following the trails Margaret and I had cleared together. I sat on the dock and watched the sun set over the lake. I read books from her collection, the ones she'd always meant to discuss with me and never got the chance. The silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. The second week, my son called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again the next day, and the day after that. On the fourth call, I answered. Dad, where are you? I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy, I said. Busy with what? Are you okay? Are you eating properly? I'm fine. How are the renovations going? Forget the renovations. We need to talk. Can I come see you? Where are you living? He asked. Somewhere safe, I said. Somewhere I can afford. There was a long pause. Dad, I've been thinking. Maybe Stephanie and I moved too fast with the rent thing. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe you were, I agreed. So come back. We'll work something out. No rent. Just come back. Why? I asked. Why do you want me back? He didn't have an answer ready. I could hear him breathing, searching for words. Because you're my father, he finally said. That's the first honest thing you've said in months, I replied. But it's not enough. I hung up. The third week, Stephanie called. This was unexpected. Stephanie never called me directly. Harold, hi, it's Stephanie. Listen, I know things got a little tense with the whole rent situation. I was stressed about money, and I took it out on you. I apologize. Thank you for the apology, I said. So you'll come back? No. Why not? I just apologized. Stephanie, can I ask you something? Do you know what I did before I retired? She paused. You worked in trucking, right? Some kind of logistics thing? Something like that? I said. Well, anyway, we'd really appreciate you coming back. Kevin misses you. And actually, I could use your help with something. What's that? I'm launching a lifestyle brand. High-end wellness products. I need investors. Startup capital. Maybe $50,000 to begin. I'm sure you have some savings. I'd pay you back with interest. I almost laughed. Almost. Stephanie, I don't think I'm the right investor for your venture. Why not? Don't you believe in my vision? I'm sure your vision is impressive, I said. But I don't mix family and business. That's ridiculous. Families should support each other. I agree, I said. Families should support each other. I hung up. The fourth week, a letter arrived from a law firm in Edmonton. My son and daughter-in-law were concerned about my well-being and were exploring options to have me evaluated for mental competency. The letter suggested that perhaps I was not in a stable state of mind to be making decisions about my living situation or finances. I called my own lawyer, Victoria Santos. She'd handled my affairs for 25 years, from the early days of building Mitchell Freight Lines through the corporate restructuring and my partial exit. They're fishing, Victoria said. They can't force a competency evaluation without cause. Have you done anything that would suggest diminished capacity? I moved out of my son's house and declined to invest in my daughter-in-law's business, I said. That sounds perfectly rational to me, Victoria said. Want me to respond? Not yet. Let's give them a bit more rope. The fifth week, my son showed up at the estate. I was in the main house, reviewing quarterly reports that Gerald had sent despite my instructions, when I saw the familiar BMW pull through the gate. He must have gotten the address from my bank statements, or old mail. I watched him park, get out, and stand, staring at the main house, with his mouth open. He walked up to the front door and knocked. Douglas appeared from the garden shed where he'd been organizing equipment. Can I help you? Douglas asked. I'm looking for Harold Mitchell. Is this the right place? And you are? His son. Douglas's expression didn't change. I'll see if he's available. He came to the house where I was waiting in the great room, the one with the 30-foot ceilings and the wall of windows overlooking the lake. Margaret's photographs hung on every wall, Images of mountains and forests and our life together. "He's here," Douglas said. "Want me to send him away?" "No. Let him wait. I'll be out in a few minutes." I made him wait 20 minutes. Not out of cruelty, but because I was reviewing a proposal from Gerald about expanding our partnership with a rail company, and it required my full attention. The business didn't stop just because my personal life was in turmoil. When I finally walked into the foyer, my son was standing in front of the fireplace, staring at a photograph of Margaret and me at a charity gala in Vancouver. We were in formal wear, surrounded by industry executives and local politicians. The caption beneath read, "Mitchell Freight Line CEO Harold Mitchell and wife Margaret received the BC Business Excellence Award 2019. "What is this place?" he asked without turning around. "This is Mitchell Lodge. My property. Your mother's and mine." "Your property?" His voice was strangled. "You own this?" "I do." He turned slowly, taking in the room. The custom furniture, the original art on the walls, the view of the lake stretching toward the distant mountains. "How much is this worth? Does it matter?" "Dad," he ran his hand through his hair, "you let me think you were broke. You let me and Stephanie treat you like a charity case." "You treated me that way on your own," I said. "I never asked for charity." "But you could have told us." "Why? So you'd treat me better. So you'd respect me because of what I own instead of who I am." He didn't have an answer for that. "Your mother and I built a business together," I said. "We started Mitchell Freight Lines with one used truck and a second mortgage on a house we could barely afford. We worked 18-hour days. We slept in the cab when we had to. We grew it from nothing into one of the largest private freight companies in Western Canada. I didn't know. You never asked. When I retired, when I moved in with you, you assumed I was just some old truck driver living on a pension. You made assumptions, and I let you. Because I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing to offer." "That's not fair," he said. "Isn't it? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you called me just to talk? Not to ask for something, not because Stephanie wanted you to, but just to see how I was doing?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "When was the last time you asked me about your mother? About what I miss about her? About how I'm handling being alone?" His eyes were getting red. "When was the last time you asked me about Lisa? About your sister? About the daughter I lost? And the grief that never goes away?" "Dad," his voice cracked. "I gave you the house," I said. "Do you know why? Not because you needed it. You and Stephanie make good money. Your debts were from poor choices, not bad luck. I gave it to you because it was the last thing your mother and I shared together. I couldn't bear being there without her. I thought maybe you'd appreciate it, make new memories there. Instead, you turned around and charged me rent to live in my own gift to you. I didn't know it was your house, originally. Stephanie said her parents helped with our down payment." "Her parents didn't contribute anything," I said. "I paid off your mortgage completely. The money came from Mitchell Holdings. Check your closing documents. The payment came from me." He sat down heavily on the leather sofa. "I don't understand," he said. "Why didn't you just tell us?" "Because I was lonely and grieving," I said. "Because I thought if I spent time with you, we might reconnect. I thought maybe you'd want to know me as a person, not just as a resource. I was wrong. I do want to know you. I'm here now. You're here because you saw this house. You're here because you realized I have money. Where were you when you thought I had nothing?" He couldn't look at me. "I love you," I said. "I always will. You're my son. But I don't like who you've become. And I won't pretend anymore that it's okay." Through the window, I could see Douglas pruning the rose bushes Margaret had planted along the walkway. The lake glittered in the afternoon sun. Somewhere in the distance, a loon called. "What do you want from me?" my son asked. "I want you to go home," I said. "I want you to think about the kind of man you want to be. I want you to decide if you're satisfied with the person you see in the mirror. And then, if you still want a relationship with me, we can talk. But it will be on equal terms. I'm not your ATM. I'm not your burden. I'm your father." "I'm sorry," he said. He was crying now, really crying, like he hadn't since Lisa's funeral. "I know you are," I said. "But sorry is just words. I need to see change." He left. I watched his BMW wind down the private road and disappear through the gate. Douglas came in a few minutes later, handed me a glass of scotch, the good stuff from the cabinet. That looked difficult, he said. It was. Will he come back? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. What will you do if he doesn't? I sipped the scotch. Margaret had bought this bottle for my 60th birthday. We'd only opened it once, to celebrate our last anniversary together. I'll keep living, I said. I'll keep being me. That's all any of us can do. 2 months passed. Winter settled over the Okanagan, though lighter than the Alberta winters I'd known all my life. The lake rarely froze completely, and the mountains wore a dusting of snow like powdered sugar on a cake. Margaret would have photographed it endlessly. I stayed busy. Gerald sent monthly reports despite my instructions, and I found myself reading them, offering suggestions, gradually re-engaging with the business I'd walked away from. I hired a local woman named Patricia to help with the house, someone who reminded me of Margaret in her quiet efficiency and dry humor. My son didn't call. Stephanie called once to ask if I'd reconsidered investing in her business. I declined. She hung up without saying goodbye. In January, I attended an industry dinner in Vancouver. Mitchell Freight Lines was receiving an award for innovation in green logistics, an initiative Gerald had championed, but that I'd funded personally. The local business magazine ran a profile about me, the self-made trucking magnate who'd built an empire from a single used freightliner. The morning after the article published, my son showed up at the lodge again. No call ahead. Just appeared at the carriage house door where I now lived, the main house feeling too large for one person. He looked different, thinner, tired. His eyes had a haunted quality I hadn't seen since the weeks after Lisa died. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He looked around the carriage house, taking in the modest space, Margaret's photos on the walls, my books, the view of the lake through the windows. "Nice place," he said. "It suits me. Dad, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what you said, about the kind of man I am." He sat down without being invited, his hands clasped between his knees. "And I don't like what I found." He took a breath. "Stephanie and I are getting divorced. I moved out 3 weeks ago." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? You never liked her." "I never said that." "You didn't have to." He looked at his hands. "It wasn't a marriage. It was a transaction. She wanted status and security. I wanted someone to make decisions so I didn't have to. When she realized she couldn't get to your money through me, she started looking for other options. Turns out she'd been having an affair with her business partner for the past year." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "The house," he said. "Your house. I want to give it back." "It's yours. I gave it to you. I don't deserve it. I know that now. But more than that, I can't live there anymore. Every room reminds me of how badly I treated you, of Mom, of Lisa, of everything I took for granted. What will you do?" "I found an apartment. Nothing fancy. I'm selling the BMW, paying off my actual debts, starting over." "That sounds like a good plan." "I'm also seeing a therapist, working through some things." He paused. "She asked me to describe my relationship with you, and I realized I couldn't. Not really. I knew facts about you, but I didn't know you. You were young when your mother and I started the company," I said. "We were so focused on building the business that we probably didn't spend as much time with you as we should have. That's on me too. But after Lisa died, instead of leaning on you and Mom, I pulled away. I blamed you for not watching her closer. I blamed myself for not being there. I blamed everyone except the drunk driver who ran the red light. Lisa. We didn't talk about Lisa much. The pain was still too close, even after 12 years. The accident wasn't your fault," I said. "Or ours. It was just a terrible thing that happened. I know that now. But I spent 12 years being angry at everyone, including myself. And then Mom got sick, and I couldn't deal with that either. So I worked more, stayed away more. Let Stephanie make excuses for me. And after Mom died, having you around was just a reminder of everything I'd failed at." I said nothing. "When you moved in with us," he continued, "part of me was trying to make up for lost time. But part of me resented you. Resented that you'd had this whole life with Mom, this business, this purpose. And I was just drifting through my own life without any of it. So when Stephanie pushed to charge you rent, I let her. Because it felt like finally you needed me, instead of the other way around. I've always needed you, I said quietly. Just not for money. I know that now. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, snow was falling lightly, dusting the pines with white. A pair of ravens circled over the lake. Can I ask you something? He said. Go ahead. Why did you give me the house if you knew I didn't deserve it? Because I hoped that having something from your mother and me, something real and substantial, might make you think about what really matters. I was wrong about that too. But I don't regret trying. He nodded slowly. I want to work for you, he said suddenly. What? Mitchell Freight. I know I don't know anything about trucking. But I can learn. I'm good with numbers, with systems. Maybe I could help with the business side. Not because I want your money. Because I want to be part of something that matters. Something you and Mom built. Because I want to spend time with my father while I still can. I studied my son's face. He meant it. I could see that. But I could also see that he was fragile. That this newfound clarity could shatter under pressure. On one condition, I said. Anything. You start at the bottom. You spend 6 months working at the Edmonton depot, loading trucks, learning routes, understanding what the drivers go through. You learn the business from the ground up before you touch any numbers. 6 months? At least, maybe longer. When Gerald says you're ready, then we'll talk about next steps. He was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. I'll do it, whatever it takes. The work starts at 5 in the morning, I said. It's physical. The crew will give you a hard time because you're the owner's son. The old owner's son, I corrected. Gerald runs things now. I can handle it. We'll see. He stood up and headed for the door. Then he stopped. Dad, I read that article about the award. The one that said you and Mom started Mitchell Freight with 1 truck and a second mortgage. Is that true? Yes. Where did you find the courage to risk everything like that? Your mother, I said. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She said if we were going to struggle, we might as well struggle for something that was ours. I wish I'd known her better. So do I said. She was remarkable. He left. I watched his rental car, a modest Toyota, wind down the private road toward the gate. Douglas appeared from the garden shed, brushing snow from his jacket. That seemed different, he said. It was, I said. We'll see if it lasts. My son showed up at the Edmonton depot the following Monday at 4:30 in the morning, wearing work boots and a jacket that had clearly never seen manual labor. The dispatcher, a no-nonsense woman named Grace, who'd been with the company since the early days, assigned him to the loading crew under Ramirez, our most demanding supervisor. Ramirez had exactly 0 tolerance for incompetence, regardless of whose son you were. I got the report from Gerald that evening. He struggled, Gerald said. But he didn't quit. Ramirez made him reload an entire trailer twice because he didn't secure the cargo properly. He did it without complaining. That's a start. The crew is testing him, giving him the worst jobs, seeing what he's made of. Good, I said. That's what I wanted. You want him to fail? No, I said. I want him to succeed, but I want him to earn it. 3 months passed. Gerald sent regular updates. My son was learning. Slowly, painfully, but learning. He'd earned grudging respect from the loading crew by never complaining, never using my name to get special treatment. Ramirez had promoted him to dispatch training. In April, my son called me directly for the first time since starting at the depot. Dad, he said, I get it now. Get what? Why you built this. Why it mattered. He paused. I loaded trucks today for 12 hours straight because 3 drivers called in sick and we had contracts to fulfill. My back is killing me. My hands are blistered. And I've never felt more useful in my entire life. That's how it starts, I said. The guys took me for beers after shift. First time they've done that, Ramirez said. I might not be completely useless. High praise from Ramirez. Dad, he hesitated. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. About you, about Mom, about what you built together. It took me a long time too, I said. The important thing is that you got there. Another pause. Can I come visit the lake house this summer? I want to see where you live, where you and Mom plan to grow old together. I'd like that, I said. The summer my son visited, the Okanagan was at its most beautiful. Orchards heavy with fruit, the lakes sparkling under endless blue skies, the mountains standing sentinel in the distance. He stayed for a week. We fished from the dock. We hiked the trails Margaret and I had cleared years ago. We talked about her, about Lisa, about all the years we'd lost to silence and resentment. One evening, sitting on the deck watching the sunset paint the lake in shades of orange and gold, he asked me something I'd never expected. "Do you think Mom would be proud of me?" I considered the question carefully. My wife had been many things, but she'd never been sentimental. She demanded the best from everyone, especially the people she loved. "I think she'd be proud of who you're becoming," I said. "She'd say you still have work to do, but she'd be glad you finally started." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I miss her," he said. "So do I said. "Every day." That autumn, Gerald promoted my son to route coordinator at the Edmonton depot. It was an entry-level management position, nothing glamorous, but it was earned. I attended the small ceremony Gerald organized, my first time at the depot in 3 years. The loading crew, the dispatchers, the drivers who knew me from the old days, they all came to shake my hand. My son stood among them, wearing a Mitchell Freet polo shirt, looking like he belonged. Afterward, we walked through the yard together, past rows of trucks bearing the logo Margaret and I had designed at our kitchen table 30 years ago. "I never understood what you and Mom accomplished," he said. "I always thought the trucks just showed up. I didn't realize what it took to make that happen." "Your mother always said the magic was in the details," I replied. "Anyone can buy a truck. The hard part is building a system that works, day after day, year after year." He stopped beside one of the newer Freightliners, running his hand along the door. "I want to learn more," he said. "The business side, the strategy. I want to understand everything. When you're ready, how will I know when I'm ready?" I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in longer than I could remember. "You'll know," I said, "when you stop asking that question." He started to say something, then stopped. Then he hugged me. A real hug, the kind we hadn't shared since he was a boy. "Thank you, Dad," he said, "for not giving up on me." I hugged him back. "Thank your mother," I said. "She's the one who taught me that the things worth having are the things you wait for." We stood there for a moment, in the yard of the company Margaret and I had built from nothing, surrounded by trucks that would carry goods across the country tomorrow and the day after that. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors she would have photographed. I pulled out my phone and texted Gerald. "He's going to be okay." 3 dots appeared. Then, "I know. Margaret would be proud." I put the phone away and walked with my son toward the office, toward whatever came next. That's the thing about building something. It teaches you patience. It teaches you that growth takes time, that you can't rush the important things, that sometimes you have to let people fail before they can succeed. It teaches you about seasons, about waiting, about faith in things you can't yet see. Margaret used to say that the best journeys are the ones where you don't know the destination. You just keep moving forward, trusting that the road will take you somewhere worth going. I think she was right about that. About most things, really. She usually was.